Hey everybody, what's going on? Hexalex here, coming at you with another Master Duel deck profile. And this one, I mean, do I even need to explain what this is? I'm sure you saw by the thumbnail and title already that yes, today we are going to be going over an Eldlich deck. And I know, Eldlich is not necessarily the most popular deck in the world, but I will say this much. If you're somebody who's not interested in playing Eldlich, but you are interested in playing against Eldlich, which I'm sure pretty much everybody is, I can still highly recommend checking out this deck profile, because one of the best ways to play around a deck, particularly one you don't like playing, is to learn how that deck works. That way you can learn how the deck functions, you can learn its choke points, you can learn how to counter it. So you know what they say about knowing thy enemy and such. So yep, I have been messing around a little bit with Eldlich, not too much. Really, I ended up pulling 3 Golden Lord from the Stalwart Force. Is that the pack's name? The really good pack with all the staples in it. I've just been opening a few of those in my spare time, and yeah, I finally pulled 3 Eldlich, so I was like, yeah, why not? Okay, I didn't need to craft any other Ultra Rares except for the 2 Solemn Judgement, which I was already planning to make for Altergeist anyway. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and start breaking down the deck itself. We've got 3 Maxx, 3 Ash Blossom, of course 3 Eldlich the Golden Lord, 1 Nibiru, that's going to be it for monsters. And spells, we have 3 Pot of Extravagance, 1 Eldlixer of Black Awakening, 2 Cursed Eldland, or just Eldland, 1 Eldlixer of White Destiny. Then here in traps we've got 2 Torrential, 3 Scarlet Sanguine, 3 Solemn Judgement, 1 Solemn Strike, 1 Gold Land Forever, 1 Imperial Order, 2 Rivalry of the Warlords, 3 Skill Drain, 2 Gozen Match, 2 Huaquero of the Golden Land, and 3 Conquistador of the Golden Land. Sorry if I butchered the pronunciation of this card. Extra deck I'm just going to gloss over real quick because, I mean, it's really not that important, right? We're mostly just have it here to banish for Pot of Extravagance. I will say that it does, to a degree, like, somewhat matter. Like, ideally, if I wanted to invest, like, all the Ultra Rares, I'd have, like, some of the Train Exceeds, right? Like the Maxx Gustav or the rank 11 you stack on top of Maxx Gustav. But again, we're not really Exceed summoning all that much or using the extra deck in general. So, I mean, I have a quote-unquote, like, the most optimized version. But, I mean, you could really, for the most part, have just about any 15 cards in here. Doesn't make a huge difference. Again, it is nice to have the options, but... So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about some of the card choices here. So the monster lineup is pretty self-explanatory. I know that a lot of people only use 2 Eldlich, and I can definitely, even in the very, like, relatively few games that I've played, I mean, I was about to say very few, but I still played about, like, it was like 15 to 20 games with Eldlich here. But yeah, I can definitely see going down to 2 Eldlich. I decided to just start with 3 because I figured that would be more standard, and obviously Eldlich is a very important card to the deck. That being said, I could definitely see possibly in the future going down to 2 copies. 3 C and 3 Ash. Not every Eldlich deck is playing, like, all these hand traps, but I just think they're so powerful, especially in Master Duel format, where, as always, we have to consider the factor that we're always going to be going first or second based on a coin flip, right? And I think in a coin flip based format like this, not, again, the games are decided on a coin flip, but that who goes first is always determined randomly. I think it's important to have a lot of options going second, which is also why I included the Nibiru. I actually didn't have Nibiru initially, I just had 3 Torrential. But I actually cut one of the Torrential for a Nibiru because I figured it's nice to have a board wipe option going first, and that is a rather niche scenario, which is why I only have the 1 Nibiru here, but nevertheless, I do feel it is a nice option to include, and I have liked it in the deck so far. Okay, moving on to the spells, not really a whole lot to say. I'm using 3 Extravagance. I like it a little bit more than the Prosperity because I like the 2 draws a little more than the 1 Excavation, although I have considered playing like maybe 2 and 2 of Extravagance and Prosperity, or even 3 Extravagance, 2 Prosperity, but no, I think that would be a little overkill. But I have considered Prosperity. I just personally like Extravagance a little more. Obviously, we're playing 2 Cursed Eldland. I think the 1 Black Awakening is pretty much a staple as another means of searching out the Eldlich. I like having the one white destiny. Not everybody plays it, but I like having an additional Eldlixer to search and an additional means of getting an Eldlich, an Eldlich out of the graveyard. I mean, again, not much to say about these spells. We don't have very many in this deck. Moving on to traps, Torrential, I like a lot in these stun decks. They are very, very good when you're going first against decks that are summoning a lot of monsters, and just it's a good card in general. Like I said, I was playing 3, but I cut 1 copy for Nibiru, as Nibiru is kind of like your opponent, a Torrential you can use on your opponent's turn 1. Of course, we're playing 3 Scarlet Sanguine, because that's one of the main ways to get our Eldlich. Playing 3 Solemn Judgement, like I mentioned in the Altergeist video, I think that Solemn Judgement at 3 is fairly important to a lot of these stun decks, not only as a means of protecting your back row from cards like Harpy's Feather Duster and Lightning Storm, but also as a means of just countering your opponent's plays. The thing with stun, right, stun kind of gets a reputation that it doesn't take a lot of skill to play, but I definitely disagree with this notion. I mean, there are certain stun decks that are easier to play in than others, and I won't deny that Eldlich has definitely not as steep of a learning curve as something like Bird Up, where you have to, know all these combos, or like Drytron or Virtual World, where you have to, again, know all the combos. But that isn't to say that these stun decks don't still have a high ceiling. They definitely do. And the use of Solemn Judgement at the right time is definitely an example of a high skill ceiling that Eldlich and other stun decks have. We're playing 1 Solemn Strike, again, because I only have 1 copy, and I haven't committed to this deck and Altergeist enough to want to craft more just yet. I do definitely like it, though, and I see a lot of builds playing multiple copies. I also have a 1 Gold Land Forever. I think not every single Eldlich deck plays this, but I like it as a searchable, just kind of like Solemn Judgment. It does make you tribute a zombie or an Eldlich monster, but that can be these trap monsters as well. I'm playing 1 Imperial Order, obviously because we play very few spells, and again to protect against cards like Harpy's Feather Duster and Lightning Storm. For my Floodgates, I'm playing, like I said, 2 Rivalry, 2 Gozen, and 3 Skill Drain. 3 Skill Drain I would pretty much consider a staple in this deck. No Vanity's Emptiness, because again I haven't crafted it yet, because this is more of a deck I'm going to play on the side, and I'm not willing to quite invest in the Vanity's Emptiness, because my personal belief when it comes to crafting ultra rares is that I would like to, if I'm going to craft an ultra rare, I would ideally like to use it in multiple decks if possible. And I don't have any other deck in mind at the moment that I would want Vanity's Emptiness for, so I'm not using it at this time. 2 Rivalry and 2 Gozen. I like the mix of them because, there are matchups where one is like better than the other. Like if you're playing against, say, like Pure Zoo, then the Gozen and Rivalry, well, they're not quite as strong, but they can at least deny your opponent going into Zeus. I guess that was kind of a bad example, but there are some matchups where Gozen is better than Rivalry, and then vice versa with Rivalry and Gozen. I just like, again, having 2 of each, and I even got a little lucky and crafted a Prismatic Rare Rivalry, so that was kind of cool. Yep, I kind of just like having the balance of Floodgates, right? I was considering playing just 3 Gozen and then, like, 1 other... Like, I was actually kind of thinking about playing the 3rd Torrential with the Nibiru and then playing 3 Gozen, but I just like having 4 Floodgates, and I'd rather have 2 and 2 than 3 and 1. I just like the even ratioing a little bit better. And then finally we have the Eldlich traps, the Conquistador and the Huaquero, which again I'm probably mispronouncing. I took a total of 4 years of Spanish in school and didn't retain any of it, so my apologies there. Yeah, I think these cards are obviously very good to have. This one is very useful for destroying monsters. This one is a little bit more niche in banishing cards, but it's also just got good stats as well. Okay, so this is it for the deck here. Without further ado, let us go take a look at some games with the build. Okay, let's take a look at this first game here. This is going to be against Virtual World. And you can see our opponent gets the first turn, which is not the best thing. We actually ideally want to be going first playing Eldlich because we obviously want to be able to set up all of our back row to counter our opponent's plays. But you can see that I did open the Nibiru here, which is going to be very, very nice against Virtual World in particular. So even though I only have the one Nibiru here, I'm not really super concerned with what my opponent's going to be able to do, especially because I have a really strong turn coming up. Like, oh my god, could you imagine if I'd gone first with this hand? This hand is very, very nice. Yeah, like I said, I'm not really concerned about what my opponent's doing. I'm just going to kind of let them go off for a little bit, but I am going to pop off Nibiru pretty much as soon as they get to 5 summons, which I believe should be coming up here with this next summon. The one after Stardust Charge Warrior here. And the other thing about Virtual World that's kind of nice is that they tend to like burn through their deck pretty quickly, so I believe like it's not too long here before my opponent's going to be down to like single-digit number of cards left in their deck. Yeah, here I'm just going to pop off the Nibiru. They are going to get a couple draws with Maxx, but ultimately it's not going to be that big of a deal, especially because, like I said, this is actually going to tribute my opponent to getting really, really close to decking out. Yep, their token is pretty big, but I'm not too concerned with it because I can always just send it to the graveyard with Eldlich's effect. And I have plenty of other means to do so as well. Drew and Ash, which is a pretty nice draw. I'm going to lead with Pot of Extravagance, banishing 6 to draw 2. I get another Torrential, or I get another Scarlet Sanguine, whether alongside of a Torrential, which is like, you know, not too bad, but not too awful. I'm going to try to destroy the token here, but my opponent does have a Called By, which is pretty unfortunate. This is, I've mentioned before, but this is one of the reasons why I like playing Called By in a lot of decks, is because it's not just good against hand traps, it's good against a lot of key cards or a lot of strategies like Eldlich here. Yep, so I'm going to get a White Destiny because I already have 2 Scarlet Sanguines, so I'm not particularly concerned about setting up a third one here. And my opponent's going to try to start setting up some plays with their Lao. I'm going to Ash it, so I can just cut that off right here and there. They are going to Desires, and this is going to, as you can see, contribute to their deck getting really, really low. They do have the Kowloon out, or no, this is the Chuchie, that's right. They do have this Virtual World Gate out to shuffle stuff back into their deck, though, so at some point I am going to need to address this card, so that way my opponent can't continuously refill. I'm going to let this damage happen here when they summon with the E-Teleport, because this isn't particularly threatening, at least not enough to Torrential here. And because I have both a second Scarlet Sanguine and a White Destiny face down, I'm not really concerned with trying to get off Torrential like at the right moment. If I need to just get rid of something, I can just flip one of these and then pop Torrential at any time. So again, that's why I'm not really concerned about the big Nibiru token here. I'm going to get a Conquistador in another attempt to get rid of my opponent's token here. Now, they're going to flip Maxx. I'm actually going to pause here. I'm going to flip, or rather, I'm going to activate the Eldlich's effect, sending the Eldlixer here, and they're going to Maxx in response. I'm going to take this opportunity to actually flip up my Scarlet Sanguine so that I can get multiple Golden Lords on the board, which is something I would have wanted to do anyway, but this way they can only get one draw. Now, I know I did just say that I was saving kind of the White Destiny and the Scarlet Sanguine for the Torrential, but since I have the 2 trap monsters, which can also trigger the Torrential at any moment, now I'm not really concerned with conserving them. I can just go ahead and pop them off here. Yeah, see, like I said in the deck profile, it's really easy to think of these stun decks as kind of like mindless, but as you can see, there's still like you have to, you know, plan ahead, and you know, think about your turns and think about what your opponent's possibly going to have. Definitely going to set up a gold land forever here to basically to protect the rest of my back row and more or less just act as insurance, right? With gold land forever, I know that pretty much no matter what, I can cut off my opponent from doing anything too scary. I'm going to flip up Torrential here because my opponent is starting to do things that are a bit scary, and because I know I can keep this Eldlich around. Yeah, during the end phase, I'm going to flip up my Conquistador here. Conquistador can only destroy a face-up card, so even though I'm not going after the monster, this is where I'm going after the Chuchie. So that way they can't continuously reload their deck, which as you can see is down to 3 cards. And with an Eldlich out and all these monsters now, and then I'm going to start banishing some of their best stuff from their graveyard, they know at this point it's over. And then I have pretty much full control of the game. Much like Altergeist, and I mentioned quite a few times there are a lot of points where your opponent will concede against you while playing these kind of stun decks where you're not even necessarily about to attack for a game or anything. You just have complete control of the game. And yeah, that's a pretty good example of how Eldlich can take control of such games. Alright, let's go ahead and load up the next game here. This one is against Trickstars, if I recall correctly, which is a deck I've only played against a couple of times, not too many. Once again, our opponent's going to get the first turn here. We did open Nibiru, but they just actually set a monster in 2 back row and pass, so we actually didn't really need it in this case. But we did have it in case our opponent was like another virtual world or like a Drytron or something popping off. Since we already have the Eldlich, we're just going to add the trap monster. Our opponent does have Solemn Strike to prevent us from... I think I targeted the monster here. I'm not really very concerned about it though. Yeah, I targeted the monster, but not the back row here actually, and I kind of want to pause and talk about this. When I activated Eldlich's effect, yeah, I targeted the monster and not either of the 2 back row, because I'm not really very concerned about back row with this deck. Obviously, I'm concerned about back row that could potentially banish Eldlich. That's like the one thing you're really worried about with the Golden Lord, is it getting banished. But like, if my opponent has things like Solemn Strike, for example, or like Solemn Judgement, or their Torrential, or I don't know, a Mirror Force or something, that kind of stuff I'm not really concerned with, because Eldlich can just recur itself by sending a spell or trap from the field to the graveyard. You can just do what I did here, add it to hand, and then you can just summon it onto the field. So yeah, I'm not really scared of anything that's going to, like, destroy Eldlich. I'm really only concerned about things that banish it, and that's more going to be, like, Called By or DD Crow and things of that nature. So that's why I went after the monster, is really just to do some damage. And yeah, another very powerful aspect of Eldlich is just the ability to get so many back rows even after... you've used yours. You can just send them from the deck to the graveyard, or banish them from the graveyard to set from the deck. Poor opponent plays by Geki, not realizing, I don't think, that, yeah, when you summon Eldlich from the hand, and it gets the attack boost, it can't be destroyed by card effects. Also, negating Eldlich while it's on the field does not prevent this attack buff, and I don't think it prevents the inability to be destroyed by card effects. I believe because it's an effect that activated in your hand and not on the field. But I don't know that 100% for certain. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. But as you can see, like, I mean, our opponent didn't have, like, the most impressive start, sure, but, like, let's take a look at the board state right now, right? Even if our opponent did have a better start, we had Nibiru that we didn't end up needing. We had the Gozen we never had to flip. We had the Solemn Judgement we never had to flip. Like, we just had complete control of this game, like, from the get-go. And, like I said, you know, our opponent didn't have a super great start, but we did have the tools to counter even if they did. Which is another way that Eldlich just completely takes control of the board. So honestly, if you're looking for ways to fight against Eldlich, what you can take away from this video is to, like, not even let Eldlich get, like, that initial footing. As soon as they start trading up on you, meaning they're answering your cards, like multiple cards with only one of theirs, like with a Floodgate with Gozen, for example, or like a Solemn that stops the play, or a Gold Land Forever that stops a Harpy's Feather Duster that would blow up all the back row. The more that happens, the further behind you're going to get, and that's the position that Eldlich is trying, and other Sun decks too, are trying to get you into. So if you're looking to, again, play around that, you want to be preventing as many of those exchanges as possible, ideally. Okay, we've got our third and final replay here. This one is going to be against... This is a Thunder Dragon variant, if I remember right. And finally, a game we get to go first here. Pretty solid opening hand. We got the Cursed Eldland, which I'm pretty lucky and tend to open with fairly often. But our opponent's got the Ash, which is a little annoying here. Because all we really have beside that is the Solemn Strike and Solemn Judgement. So ideally I would have liked to set up like a Scarlet Sanguine or something here. But, or I guess I couldn't have because it's a Golden Land spell or trap. But yeah, it's always got to remember that the difference between Golden Land and the Eldlixer. Yeah, our opponent's got an aloof Lupine. I'm actually going to Solemn Strike it, because I don't want them to banish anything else. Like, yeah, they can get back this Thunder Dragon duo that they just banished, but I'm pretty much fine with that, because that's just an even exchange. My opponent doesn't really advance their hand or board state by doing that. And as you can see, they don't really have any other response. They sit to and pass. This is again why I say you don't always need a Floodgate in order to stop your opponent. It's oftentimes just one well-timed back row flipping up is all you need to just pretty much cut off your opponent from doing anything during their turn. in a lot of ways, that is another very skill-testing aspect of playing a stun deck, right? Because if you're playing a combo deck, you really only need to know your combos in order to get plays. But stun deck's plays are all about stopping the opponent's plays. Okay, I actually have to point out that I made a mistake here. I missed the part of Pot of Extravagance where you have to activate the start of your main phase 1, and I activate a Cursed Eldland to search an Eldlich before I activate the Extravagance. So I search it and then I'm forced to pass here because I don't really want to discard Pot of Extravagance for Eldlich's effect. So yeah, I do have to point out I did make that misplay here. But yeah, like I was saying, a skill testing aspect of stun decks is that you kind of have to know everybody's combos, not necessarily fully, but to an extent, because again, an important aspect of playing stun decks is getting negations at the right timing, and a lot of knowing that is just learning your opponent's choke points, right? My opponent does have a call by here, which is a little annoying, but I am actually going to flip Solemn Judgement here, which I know Solemn Judgement against a call by might seem like overkill, right? Like, it seems really egregious, but you gotta remember, for this deck, like, that's me losing my Eldlich. Like, Eldlich is my win condition, you know? Like, I gotta protect it. Another note to take if you're watching this to learn how to play against Eldlich, the Golden Lord is very, very, very important to this deck. Like, sure, we have, like, skill drains and rivalries, but, like, look at the rest of my hand. If I don't have access to Eldlich here, then I really don't have anything going for me as far as, like, pressure. Like, sure, I can stop you from doing things, but the Golden Lord is my main, and in a lot of cases, only means of really providing pressure to actually end the game against my opponent. So, I've said it before in other videos too. In fact, in my How to Play Against Eldlich video, I mentioned this, but yeah, a good way to play against Eldlich is just to, ideally, if you can, stop them from getting access to the Golden Lord whatsoever. But of course, that can be difficult when we're banishing our Golden Land monsters and, you know, just setting a bunch of Eldlixers. But, yeah, once again, as you can see, we just established control, even though we're not in a position where we're ending the game right on that turn. We've more or less ended the game on that turn, so without further ado, let's take one last look at the deck before we end off the video here. Okay, everyone, as always, thank you so much for watching. I super duper appreciate it. If you are an Eldlich player and you watch this video, I would love to hear from you in the comments about the build. I'm always looking for suggestions for my decks, especially ones like this where I'm still, like, very much in an experimental phase with it, where, like, this is my current build, but I don't think this is, like, the be-all definitive build. I'm particularly interested to hear about, like, Vanity's Emptiness, but especially Solemn Strike. I'm curious how essential they are to the deck before I go ahead and craft them there. Also, what you think about Nibiru, because I really liked the one Nibiru. There's a part of me that's considering playing a second. I think that might be a little overkill, though, to be honest. Yeah, like I said, if you play the deck, or even if you don't, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Like I said, always looking for feedback. I find it super helpful, and I just love hearing from you guys in general. The support is awesome, and you guys are awesome for being so supportive. But yep, that's going to about do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this one. Even though it is, you know, again, a not so popular deck, I still actually had quite a bit of fun playing it. So if you want to see more, let me know. But anyway, that's going to be all for today. This is Eldlix, signing out. Have a fantastic day.